Yeah, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. So this is a private video. Yeah. Because it's easier than writing shit down. So I had a revelation. So I want to go over it. Let me see, turn this fan off here. It's weird. I want to talk about it. So I decided to watch Eyes Wide Shut because there's nothing else to do. It's fucking boring as fuck. And I mean, fuck, how many times I gotta watch that movie, dude? You know, whatever. They had an unrated version, and I was wondering, have I seen the unrated version? So I'm just watching it, and so far I've already seen it, but whatever. And you know how that movie's all about marriage and love and sex, and you know the dynamics of that. And it got me thinking about Christina and how all that all that stuff that's portrayed in that movie is all stuff that you got to deal with in a relationship, you know. But yet that's the stuff nobody ever admits or talks about. Everybody's always just brags about how, my relationship was just so wonderful or whatever, like, and it's just not true, you know. When you're married, your wife wants to fuck other dudes and you want to fuck other bitches and all this shit, and it's just fucked up. It's fucked up, dude. And so I was like watching it and I'm thinking, man, you know, I should have had me and Christina sit down and watch this together and discuss everything that they're touching on regarding romantic relationships and marriage and sex that is being talked about in the movie, and like talk about it openly, like, yeah, isn't this kind of true? And is this true about women? Do women like, right? And all this stuff, you know? Would I feel comfortable if my wife was dancing with some dude like in that movie? No. She was acting all slutty and stupid like that? No. You know? But, you know, whatever. So anyways, this is how relationships are with, you know, it's just fucked up. It all goes back to fucking Adam and Eve and the apple and the fucking serpent with the big boner and all this shit or whatever, you know? The serpent with the big dick that fucking, you know, tempts fucking Eve, and Adam just goes along with it like a simped fucking cuck. It all goes back to that. That's what all this marriage and fucking shit is all about. You know, so I'm like thinking about when I was with Christina, because we were married and everything but on paper. So it got me thinking, right? Because the other thing that's weird is, like with the movie Eyes Wide Shut, they get drawn into like a fucking like a satanic type cultish witch cult, a fucking witch satanic, like it's all intertwined with all that, which is what happened. Christina was all fucking mixing up with all these self-proclaimed witches and shit, you know. So whatever, what am I gonna make of any whatever? It doesn't matter. And how like what happened in fucking Eyes Wide Shut is what happened to me. But it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Well, similar to Eyes Wide Shut. See, Eyes Wide Shut has a happy ending, which is it shouldn't. It shouldn't. They should. This movie should be made about what happened to me, and because I'm sure if it happened to me, I'm not the only one. And but whatever. They lived happily ever after in the end, remember? In Eyes Wide Shut, whatever. So anyways, so I'm like, and I ate dinner, and then I was like, fuck, I gotta take a walk. And then, you know what? I'm not even fucking, whoa, the door just opened, that was creepy. And I'm not even kidding you. As soon as I decided to take a walk, right when I paused the movie, Tom Cruise's character was like, I'm just out taking a walk or something. It's like, right, that was the line. As soon as he said that, the movie paused. Like, as I was going to push the button, it was saying, as I was going to push the pause button, he was saying that. I'm just out, taking a walk, and then I push, and then pause. All this it's just, fuck, whatever. So anyways, long story, but whatever. So, I walk up to the store to get a pack of cigarettes, and because I just ate, I gotta move around some. I gotta do something. Fuck. It's fucking late. Well, it's like 9. Well, it's 10 now. But anyways, and then as I'm walking, I'm seeing the fireworks off in the distance, and that totally reminded me of Christina, because me and her would go watch the fireworks, and that was her idea, to go watch the fireworks. And so I was like, yeah, baby, let's go watch the fireworks. But before that, I would never go watch fireworks. Like, I could give a fuck. Really. I mean, I can't even remember when's the last time that on the 4th of July, I got up and made an effort. Let's go to the fireworks. Like, I just don't do that. The same with birthdays, holidays, none of this shit. I just don't do it. But because I'm in a relationship with her, and she, I guess is into that kind of stuff. Fine with me. So I'm like, yeah, baby. And so it was a thing. Every 4th of July, we'd go watch the fireworks. And I remember thinking that as I was watching the fireworks go off, is like, well, why wouldn't that remind me of her? Because I never went to watch fireworks until, I just didn't. Just wasn't something I would do. And she was like, that was the thing. She liked to go do this stuff, this kind of ritualistic stuff, whatever. And so I was like, yeah, baby, and then it reminded me that I loved her, dude. And so then I stopped and I was looking at the fireworks, and it just reminded me of her, and how we had fucking good times. And this is what's part of the whole mystery. Like, we had a good relationship overall, I mean, really, as good as it could be. There is no perfect relationship, but like, we had it. I mean, but I guess everybody has a different standard of what that means. So then I started thinking about that. I was like, well, my idea of success is not the same as yours or anyone else's, And because I've always gone against the grain, I've never been interested in what society tells me success is. And now here I am, 51, and I live in this little trailer, and I'm fine with it. Like, to me, this is cool. And I'm away from people. Like, I live in a fucking ghost town, right? And I like it. And it's like, kind of like, it's like right on the cusp of off the grid. I'm right on the edge I'm right there, just almost off the grid, and I like it. Like, it's like guys like to play in the, men and boys and stuff like to play in the dirt. Women don't. Women like to play with Barbie dolls and shit. Boys and men like to play in the dirt and fucking go hunting and, camping. Women and girls like to play with Barbies and put on makeup and dress nice and shit. Like, that's just the way it is. So to me, I'm cool. Like, whatever. Like, whatever. But again, everybody has their own idea, and then men and women have different ideas, you know. So I was like, everything is cool. You know, you see again, like you see how I have my place set up, so it looks nice. I mean, it's a small trailer, but it looks, there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's like a tiny home. I live in a tiny home, and I put all this together, and I designed it myself, and you know, I did all this. You know, I ripped everything out of the trailer, and then I built the shelf and the fucking, you know, I did all this, you know. Anyways, so, and that's what I did with our mine and hers living quarters. We lived in a 33-foot trailer. It was a RV, and it was a nice RV. I mean, you know, and you know, and that's just how we live, because that's how a lot of people live today. Have to live today, because you can no longer afford the cost of living anymore. And so, but anyways, now, was she unhappy? I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, like, our relationship, it was just your typical cookie cutter, you know, garden variety relationship. There wasn't like extreme anything going on. You know what I mean? Wasn't like extreme fighting, extreme yelling, extreme anything. Everything was just pretty chill, you know. It would get stressful because living like I'm living is not easy. And she was already living that way when I met her. And when she got with me, her life improved a lot, like drastically. Her life improved drastically. And so then I started thinking about that. And I started thinking about like addictive relationships. So there was a scene in this movie, Eyes Wide Shut, where you know, I only watched like the first 30 minutes of it before I put it on pause and walked to the store. And but one of the scenes, after the husband and wife are having this intense discussion where the wife is talking about wanting to fuck other dudes and shit and everything, it was getting real crazy, right? Then he gets a call because he's a doctor and he has to go because someone had passed away, and he needs to go there and show his face because the family, you know, he's the family doctor. So he's like, all right, I gotta go. And so this crazy conversation about women being sluts and men being fucking all this stuff, it ends abruptly because he's a doctor and he's on call and he has to go because he's the family doctor. The family called because the elderly father had passed away. And so he goes over there. And everything that his wife was just telling him, okay, his wife was just telling him that when there was a time, right, and when they were about to get married, that she wanted to fuck some random dude, and that she would have fucking risked everything, including her child, the marriage, everything, just to fuck that dude, just to have fucking big dumb sex for one night with that guy. And she'd never seen the guy before. They only had a brief encounter. She never saw him again. And she was admitting this to him, right? And so then he goes on call. He gets the call. He has to leave. He gets to the house. And there's this woman that's super hot that looks kind of like his wife. And then they're in the room where the woman's dead father is laying in bed. And the whole time, they're supposed to be there because of the dead father, but all she can think about is fucking him. And then she finally admits it, and she's like, I love you, and starts like fucking, you know, basically trying to fuck him. And then she's about to get married, and her, you know, her soon-to-be husband is going to be at the house in like 10 minutes. And so she's trying to fuck him and is like making out with him, and then he's like kind of reluctantly stops and is like, dude. And then shortly after that, then the soon to be husband shows up, and then they all put on their masks, like a charade, like fucking, Eyes Wide Shut is a lot of it is about charades and people wearing masks. So they put on their fake pretenses and they just talk like nothing happened. And then he leaves. And he just leaves and decides to just go for a walk because he's all fucked up in the head. Because he just had that crazy conversation with his wife. And she's telling him that she just wanted to fuck some random dude and would have risked everything, marriage and the child and everything, just to fuck that dude. And then that happens where that woman does the same thing to him. And so then he's all fucked up in the head. And so instead of getting a taxi and going back home, he decides to just take a walk. So anyway, so I'm like thinking about all like this is crazy because, oh man, it's anyhow. So let's see if I could go into this some more because, and so I'm take a walk and I'm watching, and then the fireworks, and then of course it reminds me of her because as I explained why. And so then I'm watching the fireworks and I'm just kind of thinking about all this, everything. And then I start thinking about her and the addictive relationships, like addictive relationship patterns. And I start thinking about her getting with me. So dude, you do not even know, like this story is insane. She was with her husband. They weren't married by law, but they had 2 children together and had been together for 7 years. And the way that she left him was because of me. So she basically told the father of her children that she was in love with me. And I didn't know any of this. And then I just randomly run into him one day and he's like, hey, bro. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, hey, did you know that Christina has said that she's in love with you and all this shit? And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know anything. I didn't know. I was like totally like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, the last couple of nights she's been telling me that she's in love with you and that when she sees you, when you come into the McDonald's where she works, her pussy gets all wet. And sometimes when she runs into you at McDonald's, her pussy gets so wet that she has to run into the bathroom and fucking masturbate and shit. And she's like telling me this with his 2 children, fucking 7 and 8 years old, standing right next to him. And he's using language like that. And I'm just totally like, imagine being in that situation. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. I'm not lying to you about any of this. And then he's like explaining it to me more in detail. And then she walks out because she just happens to be on break. And so she walks up and sees me and him talking. And then he turns and says, isn't that right, Christina, that you're telling me you're in love with this guy? And that when he comes into the restaurant, your pussy gets all wet? And sometimes it's so uncontrollable, you have to run in the bathroom and fucking masturbate and shit? And all this in front of the 2 children. And then she's just all like totally dumbfounded and just like looks down. And he keeps pressing her on, isn't that right? Isn't that right? And then she looks up really reluctantly and looks up at me and then just kind of gives me a really subtle nod and then looks back down like in shame. And he's like, so I'm taking the 2 boys and we're leaving. And she can decide whether she wants to help me raise these 2 children or if she wants to be with you. That's how it all started. It's just crazy, dude. But see, the thing is once me and her got together, because, well, this was one of the things that I realized. Like, see, when I was looking at the fireworks and I was like thinking, what happened with us? Because it's a mystery to this day. She never was honest about any of it. She never talked to me. There was no closure. It wasn't like, hey, I think we should break up and stuff. It was just like immediately cut off and disappeared. after all this crazy stuff happened with fire and death threats involving murder and all kinds of shit. I mean, totally just like unbelievable, bro. I'm telling you, you can make a fucking movie about it. Whatever. Don't believe me, I don't care. So, and I'm wondering, like, does she feel the same way as me? Or is she just this, like, or is she really just some demon possessed fucking, like, whack job or something, you know? And then I started realizing, you know, when you're in a relationship and then you just immediately, you know, you get with someone else at the time that you're breaking up, you know, it's bad news. It's bad. And I imagine that, like, she didn't feel the same way as me. And also because of the two children. See, that shit was eating her. That shit was like that because that's all she could think about was those two children. And that's all. She was just like felt guilty the whole time. But see, the problem is he was abusing her. She had to get out. And that was totally proven. It was totally proof. It's provable. He was like abusing her so bad that she had no choice but to get out. She had no choice but to leave him. And so she was right in leaving him. And I mean, like, she had no fucking choice, dude. And because she's a woman and she's fucking poor, she has no power to take those children with her when she left it. Like, it was either continue being extremely abused, like extreme abuse, or leave, including leaving the children with him until she could figure out how to get the children away from him. And so all of this was part of her. So when I'm in a relationship with her, that's what's going on with her, is it. And so she's totally torn. She doesn't know whether she should just go back to him for the sake of the children and just put herself in harm's way of just go be abused more, you know, in order to be with her children, or don't get abused, you know. Anyways, so, you know, so she had to leave him, you know. And then, like I said, I live in a ghost town. Where's she going to go? Who is she going to go to? There's nobody out here. Like, I'm like the only person that she could go to, you know? So, it's really unfortunate. The whole thing was all very unfortunate. She had nowhere else to turn but me, you know? And this ghost town is full of a bunch of vultures and liars and thieves, and I, like, there aren't very many people like me here, you know? I'm not an angel or a saint, but I'm not a fucking vulture and liar and thief and just out to fucking rip everybody off and fuck everybody over. And, like, I'm not like that at all. And many people here are in this little tiny ghost town with the population of like 1,000 people or less. And so she had no one. She had no fucking friends because he was so abusive. He had her isolated to where he wouldn't allow her to have any friends. And so mine and her, friendship was kind of on the down low. But she didn't even really admit that to me. It took her a long time to start even admitting any of this stuff. And that's when, and she was being abused. Like, the guy's a total psycho. He's a total fucking psycho. So she had nowhere else and no one else to turn to but me. And she did the same thing to me that woman in the movie did to Tom Cruise's character. The woman whose dad was dead, and he came for the house call visit as the family doctor, and then she just totally like was like, I love you, just randomly. And he's trying to tell her, he's like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You just suffered a bunch of trauma. And she's like, no, you don't understand. I love you. And he's trying to explain to her. He's like, dude, you don't even know me. This was the exact thing that was happening to me with this Christina. She was telling me I love you and all this shit. And I was having to tell her, I was like, look, man, you just been through a lot of stuff. You know, please. I mean, and she was just insistent. No, I love you. So, anyways, but yeah, no, I mean, there was just a lot going on with her, you know, and I don't know what it was because she was very secretive. She didn't trust anybody, including me, even though she claimed she loved me and all this stuff. So I don't know what all is going on at all, and I don't know if she's just, you know, like demon possessed. If she was possessed at the time all that shit went down, I really don't know. Or if she's consciously seeking, you know, to be possessed. Well, I don't know I don't know. But anyways, so yeah, very strange though. Strange 4th of July. And I'm telling you, I don't do this. It just got triggered. First, I was watching that movie, and then I step outside, and then I see the fireworks. And I'm telling you, like, there's nothing else that fireworks would remind me of than her. Because, like I said, I would never go watch fire. Why? Would you? Would you? I mean, really? You know? See, when you're in a relationship with a female, you go and do stuff like that, I guess. I haven't been in a whole lot of relationships. Like, I've been in relationships maybe 3 times or 4 times where it was like we were in a relationship for, you know, a couple years or something. I've never been in a relationship with a woman more than 3 years. But we lived together, you know, like 2 of the relationships I've been in, we lived together for, you know, like from, I don't know, a year and a half to 3 years or something. And, you know, both times it didn't really, well, this last one is the worst. I would never anticipate things would ever get that bad in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about murder and arson and death threats and crazy shit, dude. Like, crazy fucking shit. So I'll just post this video. I was going to put it at private, but I don't see why put it to private. I mean, watch it or whatever, you know, as Richie from Boston say, or don't, you know. It's just a personal kind of account of things. Very strange though. It's I don't know. Like I wonder. Like I don't. The last I heard, she's in New Mexico, and the guy that she's with, I've heard from credible sources that the guy is like retarded, kind of, or something, which is weird. It's like, why? Why would you leave me for some guy that's just like questionably retarded, you know? And I'm talking about the person that told me this is not someone that calls people retard. Like the person that told me this is still loosely friends with Christina, okay? And met the guy. And honestly told me that, like, he seems like he's retarded, is what she told me. And then she told me, she's like, you know, I used to work with retarded people, and he just seems like, she wasn't saying, oh, he's a fucking retard. No, dude. Like, she's telling me this guy really seems like he's retarded. And it based off of her experience working with retarded people. And so the last I heard, she's with this guy who is like, and the other thing that's weird is his physical, everything about him physically resembles me. Like he's tall, he's thin, he's got blonde hair, but he doesn't resemble me in a lot of ways because he's a hippie. Like he wears hippie clothes. Like, and I am not a fucking hippie, you know. I don't like, dude, if you ever heard me go off on tangents about hippies, I have a particular prejudice with hippies, which I could go into and explain. I've done videos on it, you know. I don't like hippies, dude. There are no real hippies today. All the real hippies are gone. That's why I don't like the modern day hippies. Like they're stupid. They don't know anything about, they're just like, I have more experience as a hippie than they do, and I'm not even a hippie, you know. Anyways, whatever. So this guy, yeah, and I don't know what's going on with her or nothing, dude. Like she just disappeared. And but like sometimes every once in a while something like this will happen. I'll think about it. I'll be like, does she, you know, like seeing those fireworks? I'm thinking, okay, it's 4th of July. She likes to go watch the fireworks. So she's probably watching the fireworks, just like I happen to see them as I'm walking in the store. And so if she's watching the fireworks, would that remind her of me, that me and her used to go watch the fireworks together? Because we had a good time. Like, I mean, it's just weird, dude. We had a pretty decent relationship. And I do not know what happened to this day. When she did break up with me, so she broke up with me while I was on a really crazy job that I would do every year. I would do this same job, and so she knew it was a super insane job where I was working 7 days a week, 17 hours a day for 5 weeks in another state. And whenever I'd come back from that job, I'd be like totally exhausted, where I'd be like, oh my God, thank God that shit's over. And I'd have to it'd take me like 3 weeks to recover from it because it's so insane. So she knew all this. Every year I would go do this job. And so she waits until I'm halfway into that job and then just dumps me out of the blue through a text and then completely cuts off all communication. And there's like no reason. There's no reason. The reason that she said when we were talking, like the night or two before, and we were talking on the phone, and she was saying that she thinks maybe we should break up. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, well, where is this coming from? Like, I don't understand. And she starts going into talking about how she's been seeing numbers on the clock and numbers on the fucking, you know, on the you know, she keeps seeing the angel numbers, and that her interpretation of the angel numbers is that me and her should. And I'm like, okay, and I'm like, kind of like, well, I mean, how do you know that that's what it means? So like, I don't understand. Like none of this makes any, you know. And I'm trying to kind of reason with her, where I'm like, well, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna try to talk you into staying with me. If you don't want to be with me, I'm not going to try to, you know, I don't want to break up, but I mean, like, I'm not going to force you to stay with me if that's what you think is. I'm like, maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't be together. What do I know? I mean, I don't want to break up, but, you know, right. That's how I was talking. And then like a couple days later, she just very cowardice of her. She just like threw a text. Broke up with me. And then when I went to call her, she wouldn't answer. She just cut off all communication with me. And I've still got 2 weeks left of this totally insane job. And so I didn't even talk to her. And then I get back, and the place we live is all fucked up and everything. Like everything is disarray and fucked up. And like, I mean, and it just looks like they're having some witch cult ceremony in there or something. And I don't even know what's going on. And then she just coincidentally shows up. She wasn't even there. She just shows up. And I was like, whoa, we both startled each other. And so then I'm like, okay, bro, like, can we talk now? You cut off all communication with me, right? And so she's like, yeah. And I'm like, so what's going on? I don't even know what the fuck is going on. Like, what is happening? I don't even, you know. And she wouldn't tell me. And then I'm like, okay, so I said, but so you don't think there's no reconciliation, there's no talking about this, like it's over, there is no discussion, like there's no talking or nothing. And she's like, well, if I told you, you would never forgive me. And I'm like, what? I'm like, in the moment, I'm totally confused, like, what could you possibly have done? What is it? What did you do? Did you fucking get gang fucked by the local fucking retards or something? Like, what could you? And she just wouldn't talk at all. And then after about 20 minutes of talking, she grabs her backpack and just storms off. Like, I'm not taking this from you. And I'm like, well, all right, whatever then, I guess. I don't know. What do you want me to do? And she just goes off into the night. And then I don't see her for I don't see or hear from her. Anyways, and this story just goes on and on and on. Now, this is what I'm trying to storyboard, which is totally insane. The whole story is completely insane. And it involves self-proclaimed witches, a murder. I mean, you wouldn't even believe it, dude. You wouldn't believe it. I'm trying to tell you. But anyways, yeah, I see the fireworks, and I know she's watching fireworks somewhere, and I'm thinking, wouldn't watching the fireworks remind her of me? Because when I see him, I'm just it just brings back memories of when we would go watch the fireworks, But whatever. And then I just realized I gotta let this go. Like, this chick I don't know what the fuck, I just don't know. And it's, as they say, over. It's over. And it isn't that I haven't processed it necessarily. And then that's another thing I started wondering. I was like, do other people have this experience that even though they broke up with someone, I don't know, a couple of years ago or whatever, that something, they'll see something and it'll trigger memories and they'll kind of start to think about stuff? Because it isn't that I'm not over her, but first of all, the whole story is so bizarre, and it's a mystery to this day, including the murder, and everything is just left totally open. There is no resolution to any of it. There is no closure or resolution or anything. It's totally this wide open mystery. It's what? And it involves murder and arson and all this stuff and witches and Satanism and shit. And I'm just like, wow, But I'm like, so even though, and so it's pretty traumatic, bro. I don't like to talk about trauma and shit, but dude, this really is a war. There is a fucking war going on all around us. And it is a real war, dude. This is not bullshit. It's not just me. It's happening everywhere. And you got people that are aware of it, and you have people that are not. They're totally oblivious to the whole war. They're just like, whatever, gotta go to work. And one of the things with her is that she's oblivious. She doesn't understand that all of this is a fucking war going on. So, but whatever. There you go. Happy 4th of July.